common perception about infrastructure tasks related to Pega is that these are quite challenging and very hard to understand. Well, today we'll try to break the myth with this one concept. Welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be trying to understand how exactly you can enable SSL on a Pega application. To understand this topic clearly, first we need to brush up on some basics with respect to SSL. Let's do that by first understanding what exactly HTTP is all about. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It is one standard protocol which is used in exchanging information between a client and a server. Here, a client could be anything like a browser, for example, your Chrome browser, where you would give a URL and then you would get back response. Note that here we are using HTTP as our protocol, HTTP colon two forward slashes and then your URL, which is what a HTTP call looks like. To understand it much better, if you are running your personal edition of Pega, you would always try to hit your application by doing the same process, right? In your browser, you would be hitting HTTP colon two forward slashes localhost, your host name and your port and the applications which you are trying to access. Here, the browser is hitting the personal edition which is running on a Tomcat server in your local, right? And then you will be getting back the response. And HTTP protocol is something which is helping you in transmitting this information over internet. Well, there is one problem here. The problem here is the information which is being sent over or being requested is not secure, in the sense that anyone who wants to intercept that request can intercept it and see that information because it is not encrypted. Imagine that to be, for example, a truckload of cash going to a bank through a route which is insecure. In the sense, any thief can try to steal that cash while that truck is in transit. The same thing is true when you're trying to use HTTP for your applications. When you use HTTP, the request and response is carrying information which is not encrypted, and anyone can intrude and look at that information. This is a basic understanding of what HTTP is all about. Well, if this content interests you, I would recommend you like, share, and subscribe to our channel and also help others who want to learn Pega from us. With that said, let's try to go further and understand what is HTTPS. HTTPS stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, and it is nothing but just an upgraded version of HTTP with the extra layer of security. Well, you may ask, what is this security all about? When you visit any website, for example, Google, you will see that it has the protocol as HTTPS, which means that it is secure, and the data which gets transmitted between your browser and your server is encrypted, in the sense that no one can come in between and peep into your request and see your information. That is how Google makes sure your data is secure. A good example for that is the same example which we looked at, where a truckload of money is going, but through a secure line to that bank, so that no thieves can come and attack that. HTTPS gives you that security which helps your data to be safe. Well, why do we need it is because data is a sensitive piece in today's world, and it is as good as money, or in some cases it's more than money. That is why we need to make sure it is secure, and SSL helps us achieve it with HTTPS. Now that we know HTTPS helps us in getting that additional security, we are curious to understand how exactly can we do this in Pega? Like, what is that we have to do to achieve such security in Pega, right? So to do that, There are certain steps we will have to follow. Let's try to go over them. I have sorted these into four main steps. The steps to enable SSL on Pega are pretty much like this. The first piece is creating a Java Keystore file or a JKS file. The second and the third step are not mandatory for you if you are trying to do this on your personal edition, but once you are working for any organization, these steps are something which you will need because they will have a separate certificate which you will have to install onto those servers. That is why I have highlighted these in white, because these are steps when you go into organization, they'll be giving you the cert, so you would be performing these two steps. But if you're trying to do it on your personal edition, the focus here is personalization, just to give you an understanding of how exactly SSL can be enabled on your personal edition. And these are the steps we'll be following. And the last step will be configuring SSL on Tomcat, where Pega will be running. These four steps are the major pieces which you will be using to enable SSL on Pega. Okay, then let's try to understand what every step does here, right? The first step is create a Java Keystore file, also known as JKS. The extension for this file will be .jks. Because it is a Java associated Keystore file, we'd be calling this as JKS file. Well, how do we create this? Before creating this, let's understand what is this Java Keystore file. This is a file which the container which is running Pega. Here, Tomcat is that. Tomcat will be using this Keystore file to store the certs and the keys by providing a password onto this file. We'll see how exactly we can generate it. But understanding is, imagine this to be a secret box inside which we'll be storing the certs which are necessary to make sure the communication between the browser and the server is secure. And those files are present inside these Keystore file. With that said, let's try to see how exactly do we access Pega today when we don't have SSL enabled, and from there we'll try to see how we can create this and proceed further with this implementation. Well, I am on my browser. Okay, let's try to access our localhost Pega environment, which is running in my local here. I have started the server. So I would say http colon forward slash, and I would say local host colon port, which is 8080 forward slash pr web slash. Perfect. So if you see now, using HTTP, I accessed my Pega application, which is running on my local, and now I see the login screen. However, instead of HTTP, if I pass HTTPS, you would see that this application would return nothing. Why? Because we have not enabled SSL yet. Let's try to see how exactly we can do this now. Well, to generate this JKS file, we will be needing a utility which is called as keytool. Keytool is a utility which Java provides you if you have JDK installed, right? And using that particular utility, you can generate a JKS file. The command I will be using to generate the Keystore file is like this. Your Java home directory, wherever it is, from there under bin, this particular utility is present. That's what this first line till the key tool tells. It tells that key tool is available under the bin directory, hyphen generate a key, hyphen create, give a alias, in the sense a specific name for your JKS file, the key algorithm which you're trying to use, which is RSA here. It is a hashing algorithm which we'll be using to create this JKS file, hyphen keystore, the file path where you want this keystore file to be placed. That's what this command is all about. Okay, so let's try to see how exactly we can generate a JKS file through a command prompt by going into this particular directory, which is key tool. Now that we have understood what is the command we are going to use to generate the JKS file, let me take you to my installation. This is where I have installed my Pega Personal Edition. If you see, the Personal Edition got installed. Along with that, something which I see is in this installation, I do have a directory called JRE, which got generated when I ran my installation. Go inside this JRE directory. All I'm doing here is going into my Personal Edition and using whatever Pega has already given me. I'm going into the JRE directory and then just open the bin. This is the bin directory under GRE bin. What did we say? In the command we told there is a utility called key tool which we will be using to generate the JKS file. If you keep scrolling down, you should be able to find that. See here, key tool is there. Well, this is just to help you place where exactly this utility is present. Now that we know, all you have to do is you can navigate to this directory from your command prompt, or just simply click on this particular browsing bar here, right? If you were here, just come here and click here and type cmd, everything in small. This will open you a command prompt right in this directory. Enter. See, it opened me a command prompt right in this directory. All I have to do here is I have to run that particular command which will help me generate the JKS file which we saw on my presentation. I already have that command. Let me copy that here and help you understand what I'm trying to do as part of this. Like we said, I'm using the key tool utility which is there. I gave key tool hyphen generate key hyphen alias. What is the alias? The name. I want to give it the name as Tomcat. Hyphen key algorithm is RSA, which we already saw. Hyphen Keystore, and see, I am passing that in double quotes. This is where I want my JKS file to be placed. Let me rename this from test JKS to my Pega JKS. My Pega dot JKS. So my Pega dot JKS file should be generated under my BPM directory. Perfect. Let's try to hit enter. Now, as soon as I hit enter on this command, because key tool was present, the utility was present, it identified it and it is performing its operations. It's asking me what is the password you want to give for this particular JKS file, which will be, let us say, if you're trying to generate just for memory purpose, I'll keep the password as password only, which is PASSWORD. PASSWORD. Enter. It will ask you for the password again. PASSWORD. Password. Enter. So, and after that, it will ask you for the first name, last name, and stuff like that. Right now, I'll keep that as blank just to make this video short. You can give the names there. First name, your organization unit name, I'll keep that as blank. What is your organization name? I'll keep that also as blank. City name also, I'll keep it as blank. State also, I'll leave it blank. What is the two-letter country code? I'll leave it blank. Just keep hitting enter, right? And then here, is this correct is what it asks. Everything, because I gave it as blank, it is telling unknown, unknown, unknown. That's fine. It looks okay to me. So I have to pass y as my argument here. Once I pass it as y and hit enter, this should again ask me for password. What is the password? The password is password, PASSWORD, whatever we set on top. So it will ask me to re-enter the password, PASSWORD, password. That's it. This should help us generate the JKS file. Let's try to go to the directory and identify if the JKS file has been generated. As part of the command, the directory we gave was BPM under software introduction, BPM, and mypega.jks is the file name. Let us see if it got generated. Let me see that. Perfect. See, it has been generated right now. 11:24 is the time. 11:24 when it got generated, mypega.jks. As simple as this is the way of generating your JKS file, which is a self-signed cert file. All we did was use this command to generate the JKS file. We passed the alias name as Tomcat and the file path, the file name which we want for the JKS file with the path, and the file got generated. we of course answered a couple of questions, right? We entered the password as password, and everything is first name, organization, unit, organization, city, everything we gave blank, and the last step we gave y, and we saw that the JKS file got generated successfully. This is how we will be generating JKS in a typical fashion. Wherever you go, where you have Java being utilized, we'll be using this method to generate the JKS file. Now that we have completed how the JKS file gets generated part, the next piece is creating a certificate signing request, also known as CSR, and installing the new cert provided by the certificate authority. These two steps, as we said before, would be necessary when you are in an organization where they do have, paid certificates which are available, which you can install and also create a chain in step 2 and 3. These are not needed for your personal edition installation because we are going to use self-signed certs, which we also generated using the JKS file, right? Perfect. With that said, let's try to proceed further and understand how exactly would we configure SSL in our Tomcat. Configuring SSL cert at the Tomcat app. So configuring SSL cert on Tomcat application server, we understand that the Pega application is running on Tomcat. If you see most of the implementations today after the cloud modernization has happened, every Pega instance is running on Tomcat. So this will be a best place to understand how exactly Pega runs on Tomcat. To modify or change any configuration related to SSL, you will need to look for a file which is called as server.xml. This file will help you understand the configuration which needs to be changed in order to enable SSL on Tomcat server which hosts the Pega application. Let us go and check where exactly this file is present. Well, heading back to my personal editions installation, I'm into that. Let me open this directory and then just look for a directory called Tomcat. This is your container where Pega is installed. Double click on this and then you will see a directory called conf. Within conf, you will find your server.xml. This is the file we are looking for. This file will have details regarding SSL configuration. I have opened this file. You can open this in your notepad. I have a glossy IDE. I am using that to open this. So in this IDE, I have opened the server.xml file which was present in my personal edition installation. What does this have? There's a lot of information available, but right now I am interested in understanding how exactly I can enable SSL. To see that, I jump down, for example, here in this file, look at line number 79. It tells this particular piece where you have exclamation with two hyphens means a comment, that which means this is a comment and won't be executed. What they have defined here, they're telling define a SSL TLS HTTP connector on port 8443. Today, when we try to run the local host, it runs on 8080, which you see the configuration here, line number 69. This is the 8080 port, which uses protocol HTTP, which is what we have been using so far. Now we want to change that to HTTPS. For that, you will have to enable this configuration exactly on line number 87. You will have to enable this particular configuration by uncommenting this line number 87 and 95. This is where you will be putting in the configuration. Let us see that. Before we go there, there are two types of SSL implementations with Tomcat, which is, if you see here, one is JSSE, which stands for Java Secure Socket Extension, and the second one must be APR, which is here, right? There are two types. One is JSSE and another is APR. APR is more for Apache Portable Runtime. this the major difference between this is, like, JSSE is Tomcat's default, and that is what we'll be using here. However, if you use Java's, any other SSL, for example OpenSSL, then you will be going for APR. Don't bother about that right now, just understand this is where you will be enabling the SSL configuration server.xml. In that you will be looking for the port number 8443. Just come into this file, control F, 8443. It would be exactly below your connector port 8080, wherever they have specified. It will be exactly below that. This is the section we'll be working on. Now, in this configuration, if you see here, the configuration which is available right now, which is commented, is connector port 8443 with protocol so and so, and SSL enabled true is what it tells. But this is not sufficient for me. I have few other attributes to be passed here, to be specified here, which are necessary for me to enable that. Let's try to see what are those attributes, and let's add that here once we have verified them. The existing configuration, as we saw, looks like this, where it has been commented. And if we try to see, 8443 is the port where SSL is enabled. 8080 is the HTTP port. 8443 is the HTTPS port. Very important takeaway from this session. These ports are dedicated. HTTPS is dedicated to 8443. Whenever you see 8443 being used, you should know that SSL is enabled on that particular application. Right now it is commented, and this particular configuration needs additional details. Let's try to see what are those additional details. The additional details are something like this. The updated config which we will have to pass are in highlighted in red. We have to pass a scheme which tells it is using HTTPS scheme. That is why I have added a scheme called HTTPS. And then also the secure attribute should be true for this. The SSL has to be enabled, which is already present there, so I have kept it in other color. The client auth has to be false. The key alias is Tomcat. Why is this Tomcat? Because we have chosen that as the alias when we generated the JKS file, if you remember. And then what is the Keystore file which we generated, which has our keys, is mypega.jks. This is also something which we created previously. After this, what we did was we passed the Keystore password, which is password which we have kept, and the protocol, the SSL protocol we are using is TLS. TLS stands for Transport Layer Security. This is kind of a upgraded version of HTTPS. This is supposed to be replacing HTTPS. If you see, HTTPS will always be referred as SSL/TLS. So understand that both are one and the same, but this is supposed to be replacing it. These are the attributes which we will be passing. So the configuration file would look something like this to you now. Once we are done from here, we'll add this particular configuration change to that file. Let me show you that. So all I did was add those changes which we went over to this particular file. I just added that connector details here. 8443 protocol is the same thing. I just left this as it is and just modified it. If you notice, I have removed the SSL host config tag in my configuration. I don't need it. Depending upon the Tomcat version you are using, you may need it or you may not need it. I didn't need it. I am running 8.7, Pega 8.7. I didn't need it. So I just used this thing. So you can mimic exactly same thing in your environment. The only thing you will have to pass is the Keystore file which you generated and whatever alias you gave. I would say keep it as it is and just try this out. Okay, this is the configuration change. Once this change is done, something you will have to do is you will have to bounce your server. In the sense, you have to restart your personal edition. How can I do that? I can kill the application which is running and I can restart it. Let me restart this, and then let's go and try to see if we are able to access Pega over SSL, which is a HTTPS sort of a connection. Let's try to see that in a minute. Well, Our application went through a successful restart. Now let's try to verify if we are able to access our application over HTTPS. For that, I'll be giving my URL, which is HTTPS localhost. Remember, the port has to be 8443. That is where SSL is always enabled. PRWeb /PRWeb. Just hit enter. Perfect. If you see right now, Pega is being accessed over HTTPS, which is a secure localhost. On the localhost, we have enabled that, and you can log in with your credentials. Let us say I do have existing this thing, I guess. I think I do have Geico and then rules. This should take me through my application. Perfect. So this is how we implemented HTTPS with our Pega application. Now we made sure our application is secure. Don't worry why this is red. This is because, we are using a self-signed cert. This is not from any authorized authority like CA or anyone. That is why you will be seeing this thing in your organization. They will be giving you, Verizon or any certified authority certs, which will avoid this problem. But this is how you will be enabling SSL there as well. I hope this video was really helpful in understanding, and I was successful in conveying the concept of enabling SSL with Pega web application. If you liked this video, please drop us a comment and also share this and subscribe to our channel. If you want to get in touch with us or get trained with us on Pega, you can scan this particular scan code and get in touch with us and join our WhatsApp group where we have very interesting topics being discussed. I will catch you in the next video. Till then, keep coding on Pega.